and welcome to a new season of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game. Let's meet the panel.
Hi, I'm Larry.
Hi, I'm Jesi.
I'm Ellie.
And I'm Josh. And Larry and Jesi, welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And today we are completely honored and privileged to introduce a very well-rounded figure in the book blogging community. You may recognize her from her channel Earl Grey Books. She is a co-blogger of Wonderland with Belgium's #1 book blogger in. And she also is the co-creator of the mid-year book freakout tag. And Ellie, it is a pleasure to have you on board.
Thank you.
Yay. We're so excited to have you. I don't know if we made that clear before.
Anything you had anything you wanted to say before we got
I
started?
don't think so. I'm excited to join in and meet everyone.
It's a delight to have you here from the southern hemisphere, up here in the northern hemisphere in the little modest state of New Jersey. Already, we are going to be kicking off this. Ellie's going to be here for 6 episodes this season, and we're going to kick off with a mammoth of a novel called Of Human Bondage by W. Somerset Maugham. And Ellie, you're kicking off with the discussion starter.
I am kicking off with the discussion. So I read a couple of reviews online, and one was talking about how the broader theme of the book is sort of the power games people play with each other. And I was wondering if anyone else kind of saw that. When I thought back about it, I could sort of see where they were coming from a few different spots in the novel.
I think now that you say it, it makes sense. Like, I wouldn't have come up with it on my own, for sure. A lot of the characters that you meet, or that I guess we should say that Philip meets, they're using their power to an advantage, whether it's a talent or just an overall, the power, like his uncle, who was a priest, I guess.
He was a car, which in essence is a priest. He was
but he had like power over, certain circumstances and people.
Definitely over.
So, definitely over.
He was very cold-hearted.
Yeah.
And if your greatest sense of incentive is if you read an entire prayer, you can have the top of my egg.
Yeah.
You could have what?
Top of his egg.
Oh, the top of his egg when he was when he was first adopted.
That part stuck out to me. But the interesting thing about his uncle is, like many other elements to the piece, it's reflective of his own life. And he himself, he was orphaned, not necessarily in the same way. Philip Carey's father was blood poisoned, and his mother died when he was 9 or 10 years old. And I'm thinking that the deaths were different for Maugham, but there are a great sense of parallel.
This is considered like a semi-autobiography.
It's semi-autobiographical. Yeah. The clubfoot is representative of Maugham's stammer, and in a way they also said his homosexuality.
Which, actually, I want to just kind of say this so I don't forget to say it later. I know I've made mention that there were a few things that I didn't like about this book, but the one thing that I did really like about this book was that it didn't dwell on his clubfoot.
Absolutely
I actually kept forgetting that he had that until it was mentioned.
That's the best part. It wasn't. Yeah. I think that Carey is a very relatable character in how he's not a man with a clubbed foot. Or he's not a club-footed man, he's a man who happens to have a club foot.
Yeah, and I really liked that because it's just, I feel like other, I want to say short stories because I haven't read any other books where somebody is disabled, so I can't say but the ones that I've read, it almost seems like, oh, it's a hinder. You're constantly reminded that this person's disabled and, oh, woe is me. Where not that they shouldn't be, that sounds terrible, but like this didn't dwell on it, and I really liked that, and just kind of reminded you that he's a human being going through life just like everybody else. He just happens to have a club foot that is noticed by some people every now and again.
But he's perfectly flawed in other ways.
Yeah.
The fact that how the heck can somebody keep a woman like Mildred around for time and time again?
See, and I think part of that is because of the clubfoot. I think that he sees himself as unworthy of a normal kind of love. That's what I think. I think the clubfoot is it's understated, but I think it's a major element to the story.
I would say to an extent, but it's the women that he's. I think with Fanny Price, it's a bit of there's a sense of. I think at that point he's insecure about ever being in a relationship, but Fanny herself rubs so many other people the wrong way, which results to her suicide. You have Mildred, Mildred for some reason he has an attraction to her, but she doesn't necessarily have one to him on the initial level. She seems to go back to him, and then she really wants him again, but by that time, she's pretty much developed herself as a prostitute. And you've got Nora, who is... Nora was probably one of the more worthy ones, but I think that he seemed as if, like you said, was somebody that was taking care of him. By the time he gets to Sally, he seems to be more... he seems to be able to adapt to situations better and take things as they come to him.
Yeah, and
accept them.
And part of it, too, is that he's in a position in his life where he is free, so to speak. Mm-hmm. From a financial standpoint, he's able to earn a living pretty much anywhere he wants to. And other things like that. You know what I mean? Like he's available in a way that he for the first time in his life where he's actually going to start earning a living. Mm-hmm. So I think that has something to do with it too. And also being adopted, the way that he was by kind of by a set of parents who don't really know how to be parents. I think that he misses his mother obviously very much, and
his aunt did her best though.
She did. Yeah. And it's not that, she didn't do a good job. It was just she didn't know what she was doing in a way, I feel like, overall that kind of left him unprepared for what he was going to experience as a young man. Throughout, like, his uncle. I would agree that he was cold, but I don't think he meant to be cold. Because, again, he didn't have any kids. He doesn't know, how to kind of connect with a child. It's, go read your Bible.
Yeah.
And walk like that's it. Yeah.
He knows what he knows.
Yeah.
But it makes it more... Because it seems like Philip's uncle... I would actually say that when it comes to his... handling of children, I think that he's still a cold-hearted person, regardless, even if it's just the fact that he hasn't handled the child, because you see a lot more evidence to that when his aunt passes away, because she passed away relatively early, not too early, but you get that. On one hand, though, you have Philip is a little bit immature.
I feel he's very sensitive.
You could say
I have
that.
to go with the immature comment. I think talking to you, I made a pretty drastic comparison, but I didn't mean it so much. We all remember Holden Caulfield from Catcher in the Rye. And not so much that Philip was exactly like him, but it just reminded me of he's not happy no matter what happens, and everything is just terrible all the time. And I was just like, God, man, just be happy, just for like a page.
I feel like you find that a lot in books written around the same time, especially about the same kind of like age men. That seems to be the sort of...
Which I get it. I mean,
Philip was
apparently
a
it's
little
very
bit older,
hard.
or you get to the point where he gets a little bit older.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tough time to live in. His life isn't exactly.
He doesn't have the internet. I get it.
Yeah.
No, but I
He
just
doesn't have
like.
Instagram.
I wouldn't want to be.
You know.
I wouldn't want to be Facebook buddies with him.
Yeah. But I mean,
Maybe,
the whole
but-
point was
No,
so,
it's just going to be like statuses of like song lyrics and
If we,
depressing
got-
if we
poems.
have common
exactly. He
interests,
got so
but-
excited, like I'm gonna go to Paris and paint, and he gets to Paris, and he's not even happy for a day painting. He's just like, yeah, I'm painting. I'm in this class, I'm painting. Oh, and there's this annoying girl, and I'm painting. Like, not.
And I think
feel
she
like he
has
wasn't
something
even,
for me.
Yeah,
And I'm painting.
and I'm painting. Like it was just like he got this money. He got to go and do what he wanted to do instead of being forced into like accounting or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And he still
I think
wasn't happy.
I think his uncle wanted him to get into medicine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
in
was
the first
medicine
place.
first, and then he ended up going for accounting, and then going to Paris for painting, and I can't remember what happened after
He
that.
made
Well, first
way
it was
around.
Oxford and ministry, right? Then it
Yes,
was.
Yeah.
then it was medicine, and
He
then
made
it
his
was
way
painting.
around, but then again, I think a lot of people would, a lot of people within his age group, whether they're male or female, are indecisive.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I get, and again, I get the whole indecisiveness because, you know, I was young and stupid too, so, you know, I played around with things, and I totally understand playing around with things, but, you know, he just wasn't happy no matter what he did.
He's very
Yeah.
impulsive
Yes.
Yeah.
and
Maybe that's why he's unhappy.
kind of
Yeah.
selfish, right? Like he has
Oh,
no
yeah.
problem
I
taking his
think
aunt's
with,
money.
that's probably, the part with his uncle, he was waiting for his uncle to die.
Even before that, when he takes
Because-
his aunt's money from, because she wants him to go to France too,
Mm-hmm.
because it's what he wants. So, she gives him all the money, showers him with love while he's leaving, and even in the book, it says he didn't even look back.
Mm-hmm.
While she was chasing the train and everything.
But when she died, his uncle canceled his ability to receive money.
That was a pretty cold letter. I will admit
Yeah.
that. That was like, oh, your aunt died.
Mm-hmm.
Please come back. I hope you'll see her at her funeral. Good day. And like, oh,
I think
okay.
you should do the audio book.
I should, right? I could do the voices.
Give me the uncle.
Mhm. But yeah, that was. But that it goes two ways though. The uncle.
Yeah, Philip isn't
yeah.
exactly
No.
warm and loving.
No, he isn't.
No,
he's
like you said.
perfectly flawed.
What was that first girl he was with when he stayed in Germany? I can't remember her name. The very first one.
I thought
He wasn't really with
that Miss
Yeah.
Wilkinson.
Germany.
Was it in Germany? I'm trying to remember.
When he
that.
got back,
Oh, when he got back, and that
Yeah.
woman that stayed at the house with his
Mora?
aunt.
No, that was
I can't
it was
remember.
Miss something.
Yeah, it was
Or
Miss
Whit Wilkinson.
maybe.
I think so.
And then she ends up moving to France.
Yeah, and she like
Fanny
that
Price
whole
was
relationship.
the first one that really seemed to.
Oh,
Yeah,
but
no,
she-
no, no.
It because he would
It's
sit out in
before
the
her.
garden with her, and like his aunt would get mad because they're like, "Oh, everybody's gonna think you're doing things that you're doing this and doing that," because they kept going out into the garden. Oh no, what was her name?
Not Mary Ann. That was Mary Ann was one of the servants.
Yeah, it was.
No, she came to visit his
No, she
aunt, and
wasn't
she was an
visiting.
older woman.
Yeah, she was a servant.
She's like
Oh,
serving
30s,
lady.
40s or something, and he ended up having a fling with her, and it drove me crazy because he was so mean to her. He was
Yeah.
like, "I really like you, but
Oh, I
that's
know
right,
exactly who
you're
you're
old."
talking about.
Like he was, and he was.
Was
he
it
was
Rose?
So, why can't I remember
Yeah,
her name?
so many speaking
Oh.
parts in this book.
There
Miss
it is.
Wilkinson.
Miss Wilkinson. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So it
He
was
was
Miss
like,
Wilkinson.
I felt bad for her because like she actually seemed to kind of care about him, and he was just like, yeah, I care about you too, but you're old, and I'm
Yeah.
not supposed to care about you, right? And
He,
like
he
that
didn't really
was-
care about her. He was
No.
just using her
Yeah.
to get experience points.
It's
Yeah.
the power play.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
well,
you
that
said, the
was.
power play.
I don't know if it was a power play.
Which
I
that's
wouldn't
the
call
whole.
it that.
In a
It was-
way, Philip is engaged in it himself, even though in many cases he is the victim of power plays. I think Mildred was the absolute worst with that, where she constantly used him, and then she didn't like the fact that he was against something of hers, and she ransacked his living quarters and destroyed all of his personal possessions.
because he didn't love her anymore.
No, that's exactly the case.
That sounds like
Yeah.
crazy people
Yeah,
nowadays.
Yeah,
I couldn't stand
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
You don't love me. Shh. Slashing tires and whatnot.
Kind of like Abigail Williams, where she, when she didn't get her way, she pitched a fit, and they both ended up becoming prostitutes.
because that's the solution to all problems.
What do you guys think of the title of this book? Like, of human bondage? I didn't know what I was getting into.
It confused some of the people who saw me reading it.
Yeah,
That's
I feel like a lot of people were a bit like...
like, what are you reading?
Is that a 50 Shades sequel?
Prequel, it would be a prequel,
Of human
1880s.
bondage.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's just the fact that we're all. It's just the fact that we're all connected physically, mentally, emotionally, and in any other possible way that you can think of. That there is that whether it be the person that has the clubbed foot, the person that does not, the person that has syphilis or another or a condition a condition that's more mentally based, or a disease, or a way of thinking. We're all connected. We're all flawed, but at the same time, there really is no.
I kind of made like a judgment on the book based on the title, because you had told me what it was about before we had read it, and maybe that's why I was happy that it didn't dwell on his club foot so much, because I thought it was going to be a book about how he survived life with a disability.
Yeah.
And that's why I was glad that it didn't dwell on it so much, but that's actually kind of what it said to me before I
It
read
did do a good job
Sort of,
depicting it, though. There was a lot. They mentioned it a lot when he went to school.
Yeah, when he was a kid,
And
they
they
did.
picked on him.
Yeah, it kind
Yeah.
of sets it as a seed,
Mm-hmm.
from which the tree of his life grows. It's like, I feel like it's probably the kernel at the center of
all of his decisions
Yeah.
and his attitude about everything. I would agree with that, and so maybe in a way it still is kind of fitting to his club foot.
Mm-hmm.
I actually liked reading about his schoolboy time.
Yeah,
when he
I
was
think
younger. That was my
maybe
favorite part. Yeah, I liked that more than anything else.
I was able to
I think
relate to that.
was,
Yeah.
Yeah,
A
that
lot.
was very similar to like my experiences. I think we've said it on camera, but I was born with a club foot, and that's sort of growing up. That was what it was like for me in school. The sort of the bullying and that sort of thing.
Kids
And
are
it's-
mean. They'll
Yeah,
pick
they
on
are.
you for anything.
And the
Kids are
worst
pick
thing
on for freckles.
the worst
Like,
thing
and
about
that's a lot less
Yeah.
worse than a club
the
foot.
worst thing about kids bullying others is the fact that the adults in many cases will turn away, and even
Yeah.
worse, the parents will refuse to acknowledge if and when their child is doing so.
Yeah, I mean it's a difficult
Because kids are just kids.
They're
Yeah.
gonna do
Which is why they're
what they
so
do.
mean. They don't know any better.
and, but yet we're told as kids that words mean so much. And I don't know about here, but back home we're always sort of told, like, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
That's said here too. But in a way I think it's like almost kind of contradictory too, because like as adults, I know I've joked with my other adult friends, it's like, it's true if a kid says it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like
Kids are the most honest.
Chassie, when she was 3, she walked past a short person. Oh, that kid or that person is little like me. And it was a little embarrassing because, here's a little person and we're like, oh no, we didn't know how to tell you that's not a good thing to say. She was just making an observation. Needless to say, it was a true observation. But, we make the jokes that as adults, if kids say it, it's true. But yet when we're younger, we're saying all these mean things. It's like, don't even say it, even if it's true. Like, no.
I was watching a court show. You guys have heard of Judge Judy?
Oh yes,
Her
I love judging.
She's great.
Her husband was also Judge Jerry Scheinman was also a judge on the People's Court before the current Marilyn Young. Pat Musey was a defendant on the show. He's a drag racer, and he was accused of particular disruptive actions which involved racism, and he engaged in KKK graffiti. And at the end of the episode, Judge Jerry says this, that because he had his kids there, children are not born racist. They're made racist. And I think the same can be applied to people that are bigoted, whether it be for somebody's race, color, creed, religion, or situation. Observations are not necessarily offensive.
It's being offended by.
It's a matter of
or making.
It's a matter of knowing that it is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And if an adult tells them that it is okay, then that is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's even just adults not saying it's not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes,
Yeah.
at certain ages, children will come out and just start making fun of people because they're different. But if nobody tells them that that's not okay, they're just going to keep doing it.
I'll be defiant, but
Mhm.
if you punish them enough or try to reverse behavior, I think in essence, people are not born. Children are not born bullies. Something happens that makes, even if it's an insecurity
Mhm.
of their own.
Yeah, there's a reason that everybody's making fun of, or making fun of others, I should say, because we've all done it at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't even say you haven't because you have.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't mean to, you have.
Yeah, see, I don't know about this
even if
whole
just make
people
it
aren't
laugh.
born this way, people aren't born that way. I don't necessarily buy into that. I think we all have impulses, and some of them are lesser impulses, and
It's a matter of whether or not you can control those impulses, or you want to control those impulses.
yeah, and I think that's where culture and society comes in, is helping us
Mm-hmm.
to do that through time. But the idea that it's a taught thing, I don't think it's a taught thing for people to pick on people. I think it's
I wouldn't
an
necessarily
impulse.
say
something
taught,
they
it's
just
just-
pick up.
Yeah,
I think
because
it's an
everybody
impulse.
does it.
But there's if they're taught not if they don't come to the point where someone does not teach them otherwise, then it becomes a problem.
Mm-hmm. That I agree with.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, it's a tricky issue too, because you want to teach kids how to figure things out for themselves as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't raise them in an authoritarian style, where every decision that they made is told whether it's good or not.
Well, that would kind of show, because that's kind of how Philip's uncle was. It was very authoritative, and you do this, you don't do this, and that's that.
One of the big ones was you can't play on Sundays.
Yeah, like
Sunday's a day of rest, which
that poor kid.
yeah, and
Like,
I know
Yeah.
you're not
sit in your room, don't do anything.
according to the third commandment, Sunday is supposed to be a day of rest, but that definitely applies to work. I guess in an extreme version, it would apply to play, but I think we've become very. I think as things have become more modern, it hasn't really mattered.
But and just kind of like going back to what we were just talking about it too, because of how, as we've mentioned before, kind of cold and I don't want to say heartless, because he wasn't entirely heartless, but
He didn't have to take the kid in at all.
yeah,
Yeah.
he didn't, because but how
But then
he
again,
treated
neither
Philip.
neither did the Dursleys.
Yeah. And, how
her
he
not.
treated Philip, I feel like, in a way, kind of reflected off of Philip in some of his relationships. Like Miss Wilkinson that we just talked about. He was just mean to her.
Mm.
Yeah.
And, I felt really bad for her because he was just mean
Mm-hmm.
and cold and didn't care. And then, he stopped replying to her letters, would just rip them up, or even if he read them, he'd be like, oh, whatever, crazy woman. Which I feel like is how
On
his
the
uncle would have
contrary,
replied. Yeah.
Sally was relatively. Sally was somebody. It was somebody's daughter, somebody that he took in, someone that took him in when he hit rock bottom, or was just about ready to hit rock bottom. He fell for their daughter, given that they were probably older.
Best way to pay someone back.
Yeah, right?
Yes, he's very contradictory. I would say that he is a hypocrite in one way or another.
I think that
But-
makes him an interesting character, though. Otherwise, if he was a lot of times disabled characters kind of are like fit into like one of two boxes. They can be like angry or they can be inspirational. And I kind of like that he got to be more than just one or the other.
Yeah.
He was and we talked about him being flawed and how much some of us didn't like him. But at the end of the day, he was portrayed as a normal human being.
Yeah.
Which
I wouldn't say angry and inspirational, though. I would more say angry and relatable.
Yeah, that's just like
Yeah.
the two terms that I like usually it's either.
Yeah.
Like I saw him as relatable only in a way that like he has his flaws, he has his demons, he has the things that he's
a real person.
Like he's a real person, and I'm a real person, and while my demons and my flaws aren't the same as his, hey, somebody else is like struggling through them too, in a sort of way.
Yeah.
I think he's a slave to his impulses.
Mm.
I think he gets an idea in his head, and he's gonna do whatever that idea tells him to do.
Mm-hmm. At a given time, too.
Yeah,
So
and it can change
all the time.
And it can change on
And
a
he's
moment.
gonna complain about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to how he's not happy ever. Like Holden Caulfield.
At least with, I think the difference though is we get a broader sense of everybody else in this book. I think that with Holden Caulfield, it's all about him. It's
That's
from his
true,
perspective, and we only see things from his point of view. From Of Human Bondage,
It's a little bit more like back. You are right there.
yeah, you see more. You can see a bit more of Philip's flaws, as opposed to a muddled.
Just everybody else's flaws, and
Yeah.
I'm the greatest, and that's why I'm so unhappy.
Mhm.
Like
No one respects me.
Yeah, woe is
They
me.
don't understand my greatness.
Yeah, exactly. At least he wasn't too cocky, I think.
Alrighty then. Do we have any final thoughts?
I got one more question.
One more question.
One more way to go through this book and think about it. What about the philosophy, his philosophy, as it adapts and changes throughout? Like he starts out Christian. He goes from Christian to atheist, but still believing in values and ideals. And then he kind of goes from that to believing that life is meaningless. And upon this quote-unquote realization, he feels liberated.
I actually kind of liked that part. Like, I know what you're talking about, where he's having the discussion with, oh no, I can't remember who it was.
The guy in
There's so
Germany.
many names, yeah. So many names I can't remember. But,
Yeah.
he's having that discussion. It's like, why...
Was it
why
Hayward?
would- I
Yeah,
think so.
it's Hayward.
Yeah, that sounds right. Waiting. So he has that discussion where he's like, I kind of felt bad because I know people who've been through this where it's like their whole life they've been living this certain way because God and devotion and all of this, and then their whole world crumbles when they're like, wait, maybe he's not real. Like, oh no.
It's reflective of Maugham himself,
Yeah.
because Maugham identified as agnostic, but I feel as if as life went on, he became more of an atheist because of all of the hopelessness and terrible things that happen in this world. And I think that the fact that he wasn't able to endure the miracles that would come out of the way that he was raised, because when he was living with his uncle, he was telling him in order to properly pray, you have to do so in these painful positions.
Well, I don't think he actually said that out loud, but it was just kind of the impression that he got.
You know, where you have to kneel on the cold floor.
Yeah, with as little clothing as possible, so the cold would punish you, and that kind of thing. Yeah,
That's
the way Jesus suffered, so
very-
that God knows you're serious, kind of thing.
It's a
Yeah.
Puritan way of thinking.
yeah, very puritanical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it kind of goes in phases, right? Like, he basically decides that God isn't real. But, you know, the other thing, too, is it's the zeitgeist of the time, right? Like, this is when these ideas were becoming very popular in the late 19th, early 20th century, especially in Europe. So, you know, to me, I mean, I don't think he's a very serious thinker. And I think he thinks he's a very serious thinker, but he just comes to these conclusions rather abruptly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And without
He doesn't really think anything.
As you
through.
said,
It's
he's a slave of his impulses.
Yeah.
I would think that's a great way to put it. And his impulses change all the time.
Yeah. So for those reasons, I say that it's an apt title. I think, but then I think that he thinks he broke free in the end, but I don't think he did. I don't think that the meaninglessness of life is going to give you any.
I think for
joy for a long period of time.
For him at that time, he seemed content. I think that he was satisfied with where he was at. He and Sally, they reassured their engagement. He knew he wasn't going to marry anybody else. She seemed pleased with the situation, and
she don't mind.
Yeah, they just went on their way.
Whatever.
Yeah. And you also have to look at time and place as well. So, I think, unfortunately, his way of thinking is more important to society at that time.
What do you mean?
I think that his wishes are more accepted and valuable than hers.
Oh.
For that time and place.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
It's not the right thing, but it's what it was.
Yeah.
So, do we have anything, final thoughts?
No, I think I got everything out of me.
Alrighty then. How would we rate it on a 0 to 5 scale with half stars permitted? Larry?
I go 3.5. I think it's worth the read. It's kind of tough. A lot of speaking parts. A lot of non-action. A lot of stuff like that. But I think it gives a pretty good idea of the kind of thoughts and the kind of people that were wandering around Europe at the time. So it's interesting from that perspective if you're interested in European culture and how it's developed.
I'm going to be a terrible person, but I was not a big fan of this book. It bored me a lot. Not that there wasn't good parts. There were good parts, but I'm giving it a 2.5. I feel so terrible. But no, it was not my favorite read. It was very long and grueling, and I felt at times that I was like daydreaming about different things when I was trying to read the sentences in the book. I just couldn't really hold my attention. So I'm sorry, but yeah, 2.5.
Yeah, I think I'll have to go for a 3 because it's really dense. It's interesting, but it takes so much out of you, and you've really got to focus on it. Otherwise, I think if you start to daydream, you look away, and suddenly you
have to read this sentence over again.
At the start, I think it could have been a 4-star. Like, I really liked the start of it, and then I think it kind of started to go downhill when he went to Germany, and I just sort of
that was actually my about that time too. Like just before he went to Paris, like the accounting area when he went to London for accounting. That was when I was just like, oh boy, I don't like this.
He's like accounting sucks, and I don't care who knows it.
Yeah, which it does. Like, don't get me wrong, accounting does suck, but you
probably shouldn't say that in the office.
This is actually not your worst rating that you've given for any work thus far.
It isn't. Which one did I?
But you did Orlando.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't stand that.
And Larry hated it with a passion.
You're right. So now I don't feel as bad. This is just the second worst reason.
I liked it more than all of you. I gave it a solid 4. And I'll quote the end of my Goodreads review. Of Human Bondage is a challenging and dense read, but it is most certainly a rewarding read. It is one that tells the story of a subject who has a disability without making him a subject that is defined by this disability. I think that the way that Maugham portrayed him was that he was, as I said it too many times, a perfectly flawed human. And I think that the experiences that he's gone through, I'm pretty sure that plenty of people could say that in some way, shape, or form that they have experienced things that were similar, whether it be being put down because of a condition or having to endure a partner that wasn't as fond of you as much, or even a partner that was bat swipe out of their mind. And I would say that there's people that have experienced whether it be a partner, a friend, or a relative that ransacked their house the way that Mildred did. Hopefully nobody has or you'll have to endure that. But I think that of Human Bondage, it definitely was dense. But I think that unlike plenty of dense works that I have read, I think that I think I got a reward from the end of it, even if I felt that it was, even if it was a task I had to go from it. So, if you're interested in reading of Human Bondage by W. Somerset Maugham, here is a copy of mine. I got this from Second Time Books in Mount Laurel, published by Doubleday. Jesi has
a library version. No, it's the Modern Library Classics, which I got from the library.
Alrighty. And here's a picture of Molland himself. Alrighty then, be sure to join us next time for another episode of Tori Gladiators. For now, keep reading.